In this episode, we are talking about feeling like you are too much or not enough. We discuss how this limiting belief is affecting your life and what you can do to change it.
Let's talk about what intuition really is.
Let's look at all the places intuition and ego show up in your life.
Let's share honestly.
Let's do the research.
I'm Jamie Hayhurst.
I'm Heather Wood.
This is the Intuitive Girls Guide.
Hey, Jay.
Hey.
I want to ask you a question that I already know the answer to.
Okay.
Do you believe that you are too much or not enough, or does it depend on the situation?
Depends.
Yeah.
Both. All the above.
That's what we're talking about today. This is a limiting belief.
Yep.
And it's the belief that you are either too much or not enough.
Yep.
Or circumstantially, whatever, whatever is
Whatever
called for.
hits. Yeah.
Whatever hits. This is such a common, I shouldn't even call it common. This is like a universal human experience to feel these things. And it is such a sign to me and to you of like the times of that we do not actually understand like how to teach people to balance their intuition and their ego to work together.
Right.
Because this is to me like such a prime example of a mixture of intuition and ego, not like a misunderstanding of how those operate, and also the way we condition people to operate in the what do you like to call it, the dumpster fire hellscape, whatever,
post-apocalyptic hellscape.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. There's also a dumpster fire. I'll add that one in. It really, you just really see that, especially in like patriarchal cultures and societies. You see this issue just really be paramount. And I have never met a human who wasn't currently suffering from this.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Okay. Now, this is a limiting belief. We have episodes on limiting beliefs.
We do.
Many. We break down what they are. I don't want to spend a ton of time right here, but I'll just give you a little recap, refresher. What a limiting belief is just a story you create within yourself about how to navigate the world. And it's based on these sort of form when you're in a situation. It can be trauma, but it is not always trauma.
Correct.
That way.
Right.
Where you can't see a way out of dealing with the thing that your ego finds unsafe. I know I'm being kind of vague, but I'm doing that on purpose because it's so general that like literally it could be from a TV show you're watching as a little kid. It could be from like a very traumatic situation you're in. It could be from a misunderstanding of how the world works. There's so many elements to this.
That's true.
But even if you had parents who had master's degrees in intuition and ego, you still suffer from this because it's not just in how you were raised. It's also in how society raises you and your culture raises you and what's reflected to you. Right. I know growing up at the time that we did, no matter your generation, you're affected by this, but you can see generationally studying like what things are more prevalent.
Yes.
So you see these like different things. Like I can see with my kids, their feelings around being too much and not enough circle around different things than like you and I.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
So it's said generally, we're going to break it down and give real examples, but I want you to hear it in a very general sense because I want it to hit you where it needs to hit you, but you could also understand it in another person.
Right.
Okay. So you can ask yourself, do I think I'm too much? Do I think I'm not enough? Please do. But I would like you to know that sort of like Jamie was kind of hinting at, these are two sides of the same coin.
Yes.
They are actually come from one root belief that's like one step below these two beliefs. And that is the belief that you are not acceptable. Like who you are is not acceptable. I'm using the word acceptable so that your ego will listen to me.
Right.
But I could also say lovable, worthy of love. I could say that. But people get a little sticky on the word love.
Yes.
It's why with the human desires we say love/connection.
Yes. Right. Good point.
Because everything is love. Every interaction with another person is based on a lack of or a want of, or it's how humans work.
Right.
It's this little thing called desire. So really, like we're talking like friendship. We're talking acquaintance. We're talking saying hello to someone on the street that you've never met before and you'll never see again. Like all levels of this. So using the word acceptable, I think is good when you're sort of testing it on yourself, but I'd like you to know the greater concept that we mean love.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way you wrote it, which we'll get to, when you most likely when you were a kid, you probably used the word love.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I tend to be in the camp of people who think they're too much. I pretty consistently stay on that side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I tend to think of I'm not enough, I tend to think of it less as myself and more as within a skill set.
Got it.
I don't have enough information about this. That was an autistic thing to say.
Sure
I
was.
don't have enough understanding. I haven't done this enough to really know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the not enough will come in.
Mm-hmm.
But that part to me is not super fearful. Like me showing up, not having all the stuff, I don't like it, but I'm not unsafe.
Right.
In comparison to you,
Mm-hmm.
situationally, for people to see you or perceive you in a state of not having enough information or enough know-how or however you want to phrase that is more unsafe for you.
Right. I was thinking as you were talking that I feel like, and I also feel like the difference is a lot of times for me, like I'm translating the issue as me not being enough, but I'm noticing that other people are translating me in the same moment as being too much. So then it always felt like very confusing to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually like sort of on my back foot about it. Like I'm like whatever I'm doing, I'm like people pleasing. I'm doing whatever because I'm feeling like I'm not enough.
Yeah.
But then that reads to people externally as being too much. She's too nice. She's like, she does too much. She's too helpful. She's too whatever, which is actually too much.
Yes.
But when people are like feeling that way about me, it doesn't translate. So I'm like, wait a minute, you guys don't get it. I'm actually not enough.
Right. It's the internal story.
Right.
Is that you are not enough.
Right.
But your ego fears that that's a truth.
Right.
Right. But externally, your ego fears that people are going to perceive you as being too much, which is such a good example because it perfectly illustrates that the issue is not that you're too much or that you're not enough. It's that you think at your root, who you naturally are is not acceptable.
Exactly.
And you can hear that in that example.
Yes.
So
and like no matter what you do,
it's
not
can't
right.
hit it.
Right.
There's
exactly. You can't win.
Perfect way to hit this.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And it really depends on your situation. And again, if you go back to somewhere around the age of 6, between the ages of 5 and 8, you're going to tap in there. We're going to talk about that. But like that's where you're going to find where you wrote this story.
Right.
And then reinforced it and challenged it as you were entering your teen years. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on how. Now, I know enough about your story to know that you were always trying to hit what other people needed from you. You were like, this is what you need me to be. I'll hit that. Like, so it makes sense that you would fall between too much and not enough because you're constantly gauging.
Right. Trying to hit the target. Right.
Yeah. It's this hypervigilance of gauging your like how you're being perceived.
Right.
So it would fall to either side because you're probably overcorrecting, undercorrecting, trying to find that instead of finding a way to show up as yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
For me, I was constantly walking around feeling different, feeling weird, feeling like I was experiencing things that other people weren't. And I was having experiences where I would vocalize something and everyone around me would look at me in confusion. And I was constantly realizing that other people weren't experiencing things the way that I was.
Yes.
So, and sometimes it was making them afraid. Which would then make them not want to be around me. Yeah. So you have to understand that like that's going to set in that I'm too much. Now, could I have also very easily written the story that I'm not enough and that's why they were doing it? Yeah, that's just what my ego picked. It picked the too much side. And also I was told constantly that I was being too talkative or I was being too loud or I was being, because I was.
Right. For them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you put me in a situation where you're like, this is school and these are the rules.
Right.
Okay. I'm not a natural rule follower.
No.
If the rule makes sense to me, happy to follow, happy to reinforce the rule and pass it along.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, if I feel as though it's not meeting the needs of the masses around me, I'm going to rebel.
Yeah, and you're also someone who just naturally has a lot of questions.
Oh my God.
In a setting where that's not encouraged.
Yeah.
or only at certain times.
100%. I also got to say, I got a lot as a kid of like, so I was always really little. I was like always like shorter than everybody else.
Right.
Really teeny tiny, little blonde. But I had a very big personality, and I was loud, and I was rough and tumble, and I wanted to, just as much as I wanted to go to dance class and wear a costume, I also wanted to get out on a sports field and be covered in dirt. And people just didn't know what to do with that.
Right. They couldn't categorize you.
Yes. So that created the too much.
That's too much because you're too much for one box.
Yes, I can't. There's no boxes that work, but I'm constantly being asked to be in one, and or perceiving that to be true. I'm not really sure I was being asked, if I'm really being honest with you, right? But again, I'm giving these examples because your experience is different. I think for you, you were trying to manage being the person that everyone needed you to be, but also not being a problem for like your father. Like, so you were constantly gauging that, right? So like that is going to create this idea that like you are constantly editing how you show up. And so these things become stuff that you take into adulthood in your own specific way.
Right.
Okay. So when you have the belief that who you are is not acceptable, I want you to understand that you take an action based on this. And this is where the problem, it like shows up. The belief is the problem.
Right.
How it shows up is in the action you take. And this is in editing yourself. Okay. The problem with editing is that you never, ever feel like people get to connect to who you are.
Correct.
Okay?
Yep.
There is a difference now between how you present yourself and and editing yourself. So what I mean is sometimes I start talking about this and their egos start to get sticky in a few places. So I would just like to preemptively speak to your egos.
Yep.
Okay. You do not, to be authentic, you do not need to show up the same in every situation and the same to every person.
No.
Okay.
That's actually not authentic.
Not at all.
Being the same for every person in every situation is not authentic.
No. You are a human with layers.
Right. Every situation calls for something different.
Yes. The way that you show up to work, if that is different than the way you show up with your friends or the way you show up, maybe you have 2 jobs, you show up differently to those jobs. It's just the way you're presenting yourself is different. That's very normal and probably smart.
Right.
You're detecting what state you need to be in and how you need to present yourself.
Right.
Okay. The way I speak to you about anything is different than the way I speak to somebody who I don't know that well about the same exact things.
Correct.
Because there's no need for me to explain to you who I am.
Right.
You already know. There's also no need for me to worry that you will tell me your honest opinion or not. I already know you will. Like when you have those kinds of things, you of course are going to show up differently.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I might show up to see somebody I know really well looking like garbage, because that doesn't mean that I don't care. It means that I know you don't care.
Yes, exactly.
So it doesn't mean I like you less or more if I show up put together or not. It just means I know it doesn't matter.
Right.
But it matters how you look when you show up to work.
Exactly.
Should that be the case? I don't know, but it is.
Right, it is.
So I just want you to understand these things are different. The way you present yourself and how you show up in that way, different than editing.
Correct.
Okay. Editing yourself is taking this natural reaction that you're about to have, or this thing that you're excited to say, or this feeling. And when the fear voice comes in going like, let me not do that. Let me instead do it this way. Let me not say this thing. It's just a constant stream of this. And I'm going to tell you how to use these 2 things in a healthy way, I promise. But first we got to talk about the problems.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you hear that, I feel like on the surface, it doesn't sound that bad. Oh, like you're just like not saying the thing, or you're being quieter
filtering
or louder or
whatever.
filtering.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't sound so bad.
No. No. I think you can end up sort of losing yourself though.
Exactly. So the problem is that let's say you're doing that and the person who you're interacting with, you form like a connection with, they seem to really like you. You're going to feel an awareness that it's not actually you. And now you're going to have a lot of fear of the more authentic you that comes out What if they don't like that?
Yeah. And like, think about the energy it takes to manage and maintain those filters and those masks with someone. Like, it's exhausting.
It is.
And then to like be managing, oh, this person gets this version of me and this situation gets that version of me, and like trying to like remember all of that and perform all of that. That's how you end up with like a chronic illness.
Yeah,
because your nervous system is junk.
Yes, there is no way that you can be regulated.
No.
Or grounded.
Correct.
Same thing.
Right.
And be able to do that.
Right.
So, and every time you're interacting with people, you're
right.
feeling that way. That's terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful. Now, the other side of it is if somebody doesn't like you, the thing they don't like isn't really you. And that might sound
That's
nice.
a good point.
Your ego might think like, that sounds great because they're not even really not like
it's not real, right?
Except it's not.
Right.
Because human beings need to feel seen. They need to feel like somebody knows who they are. They have an idea of who they are. Love me or hate me, I am this.
Right.
Right? And if that's not how you're able to connect with people, it feels terrible. And I say it from experience, not from judgment. I say it from like two people who have that lived experience of being people pleasers.
Yes.
There's a difference between being really good at showing up and connecting with people versus people pleasing.
Yes.
And the line is a thin line. But it all has to do with how much self-sacrifice is involved.
Correct.
It also has to do with how much you like accept who you are. One of the things that took me a very long time to accept about myself is that I like to connect with people one-on-one or 2, 3, a group of 4. It's probably about my max that I really truly enjoy being with.
Right.
Because I like to connect with people on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And so I would see these people that, I'm friends with and I admire who could manage a group of 20 people. Right. And you have a friend who does this really well. Like she could be in a crowd and like literally make friends with every single person and they would all feel very connected to her, even though she talks to them for 3 seconds.
100%.
You and I are not that person. Nope. And I admire that person, but we aren't that.
Yeah.
I think you're a little better at it than me, if I'm really honest, but like managing that much is different. If you're doing it like I'm leading a workshop or something, that I can do. Right. If it's like a job. But if it's just like, hey, connect with this large group of people, that's really tough for me because I enjoy connecting deeper and I like to put all of my attention on 1 or 2 people and like really connect. So for years I beat myself up about that. Right. And so the point is just going like, oh, this group thing that I'm doing, I'm still going to do it, but I'm not going to put pressure on myself to be something that I'm not.
Yeah. You have to manage, like you always say, like you have to manage the expectations of that. Like you're not going to go into that and expect yourself to speak to every person in the room and have like a deep conversation with every person in the room. You're going to go in and connect to the people that you care about and that you want to talk to. And then that's going to be enough.
Yes.
The
thing that I try to think about when I'm doing something in a larger group is like, ooh, this gives me an opportunity to just have like a small connection with a lot of people and then go in and form more.
Yeah.
Like it's the preemptive part. Like if I think about it that way, it feels a lot less daunting.
Yep.
Than go try to like charm all these people. That doesn't feel good in my system.
Yeah. And I think you also get like, again, with expectations, like I think part of it is like, I would go into that situation and only talk to 4 or 5 people and I would feel good with that. That's all I would do. But then after, like when I went home, I'd be like, I should have spoken to more people. I should have made more connections. Like I overanalyzed.
Yes.
Beat myself up. Yes. Post game. You know what I mean?
That post game.
It's like letting the again with expectations. It has to be okay. Like you have to like realize like, no, this is where I feel good.
Yes.
This is the threshold of like what like 4 or 5 people feels good for me. It doesn't matter how I feel about it tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Or like the could have, should have, would have's. Like,
yes.
It just, I did what, like, you have to trust your intuition. I did what felt good for me in that scenario. If I was supposed to speak to all 20 people, if that's what was best for me and my body, I would have done it.
Yeah.
You know?
And we put this expectation on ourselves, like, oh, I admire that trait in that person over there. I don't have it, so I'm lesser.
Correct.
That isn't actually true.
No, it's just different. It's not better.
And I feel like a real broken record, and I don't give a shit.
Okay.
In that, like, this is a patriarchal versus matriarchal society problem.
True. Very true.
And intuitive
Very
empathic
true.
people are built for matriarchal society.
True.
Well, actually, all people are, because all of them are that. But you know what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say, right? If you were truly working in a society that valued community, and I don't just mean like the people you live with or like the town you live in. I mean like there's a million different ways to have community. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Like if you actually were in a system that valued that, then when you saw someone who did something differently that you admire, you would feel excited.
Yes. You wouldn't feel competitive.
It would feel like there was less on your shoulders,
right?
Because that person just walked in who can do that.
Right.
That's awesome. But instead, we live in a patriarchal society, which is competition, as you're saying, like where the threatened comes in. So now, is this person better than me at this? Are they going to take my spot? Are they going to whatever you're thinking, right? Why am I not like
they're
that?
They're going to like her more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous. It's like, oh, thank goodness, someone who can shine in that way is here. Right. I don't have to try to do that.
Right.
Oh, phew. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a good example of
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I want to touch on the universal fears here. Okay, so the universal fears. We have episodes on these. Check them out.
Many. We have many episodes.
I feel like we talk about them all the time.
Yeah.
So, just a recap, the universal fears that every human has as we feel abandonment, rejection, and being seen as a fraud.
Yep.
Everybody feels all of them, but everyone has one that is the driver. It's like the big one.
Yep.
Okay. This is my own brain that likes to file data and research. Okay. In that, I have noticed just one little pattern with this that I would like to share with the class.
Sure.
Okay. Abandonment and rejection people tend to kind of evenly go between too much and not enough. But fraud people, it's almost always not enough.
Not enough.
Almost
Definitely.
Always. Okay. And I really do think that.
Yeah, that's true.
There's, of course, exceptions to this rule. That all rules should have exceptions. This is not. So you don't have to write in and tell us you're not. No. Actually, you could if you want to give me examples, because I don't mind it. But I'm just saying, like, it's helpful to understand if you are a fraud person. And I really think that the centering of becoming a fraud person for most people, again, when we go back and do that work, is that there was a parent or a parental figure around them that was sort of telling them, act like this is what's going on, even though this is what's going on.
Exactly.
Okay, so we don't have any money, but pretend we have money. Yes. Our house is dirty, but pretend our house is clean. Like, go on, comma, 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 comma. Yep. So you have this belief that who you are isn't enough for everyone else. So you have to sort of lie or put on airs or like however you want to look at that, right? And so that enforces that belief.
Right. Absolutely.
Pretend your parents get along, like whatever the thing is.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's why you see that there, where I think with abandonment and rejection people, the stories around how the abandonment or the rejection occur are so vastly different.
Varied, they can be anything. Yeah.
So there you go. So that's just
that makes sense.
Okay. I'm glad you agree. I want to talk about the inner critic.
Okay.
Now, your ego's job is to tell you what it's afraid of.
Yes.
Okay. But there is a difference between your ego voicing its fears for your consideration and your inner critic speaking.
Yep.
These are two different things. Now, are they both your ego? Yes, they are. But you only have an inner critic voice when it's around a limiting belief. Okay. So something I don't fear is people thinking I'm not enough. Very, very little to me. Like, if you give me examples, is that going to strike up a lot of ego stuff? So if I'm using that as an example, I'm not going to have a lot of inner critic stuff. Like if someone's like, oh, you're going to go try to do this thing that you've never done before, my fears are going to speak to me. My ego is going to be like, well, people could see you fail. People could see you trip and fall. People could see you not do great. And that's just going to come to me as an ego. Let's present you with some
concern,
fears.
right?
Okay. But if you were giving me examples of people thinking I'm too much, You're too loud, you're too bossy, you're too smart, you're too this, you're too that, you're too masculine, you're too feminine, you too much don't want to be in a box, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My inner critic is going to start talking because this is connected to a limiting belief for me. So my inner critic is going to be like, yeah, they're going to think you're too fat, or yeah, they're going to think you're too smart. You better dumb it down a little bit. Like, you better not talk in your loud voice, use your inside voice. Like, it's going to start criticizing me, and its goal is to make me feel shame.
Yes.
My ego presenting fears is not bringing shame in at all. It's just saying it. I might react with shame, but it's not like, let's bring shame in. Your inner critic is like, shame and guilt time, babe. Let's strike it up.
So where does this fall then? Because I know for you, one of your actual concerns, if you were trying something new, one concern you would actually have would be that you were too good at it.
Yes.
Which is too much.
Yes.
Right? Like, you try something, you're naturally good at it, which
people won't like you.
People won't like you because you're not struggling enough. You're too good at it. You're a natural athlete. You're whatever.
Yes.
So would that be an ego voice, or would that be the inner critic?
My inner critic would start talking real fast.
About that.
Yeah.
Like, don't be too good. Don't be too shiny.
Yes.
Okay.
Really
rein it
adjust.
Rein it in.
Try to be like third or fourth
yes.
at abilities. Like, when you get there, you're going to look at how good everyone is. You're going to see where everyone's abilities are, and you're going to try to come in third or fourth.
Second, right. Don't be first.
The whole time I'm doing it, I'm like, uh-oh. Someone starts complimenting me, I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
Like, what am I doing? Like, what, is this dangerous? How do you feel about this? Do you like me now? Do you not like me now?
Exactly.
And I mean, I've done enough work that I can start to separate it. Listen, sometimes it fucking wins. I don't care how much work you've done. Sometimes you get like clobbered by it.
I just think that that's a good example, though, because I think everyone thinks like, oh, of course you want to win. Of course you want to be the best. Like, we're programmed by the society to like be the best. Like, that patriarchy loves us all competing against each other and striving to be the best. And but like, it's valid if you don't want to be the best, because that's scary. Like, because you can be ostracized for that.
Yes.
You know,
quite frequently. And again, it depends on the beliefs you have. Like, you might be hearing that and think like, how ridiculous. Why would you feel
I don't
bad
think it's ridiculous at all.
No, but like someone that's not their belief, you might hear that and think like, no, the best would be safer.
Or for someone who if your own fear is that you're not enough, you would love to be the best at something. So you think it would eliminate all of your like, I suck, I'm not enough voices. Yes. But for someone else whose fear is to be too much, that's too much.
And it's all lived experience. And what the root for me of this, because I want people thinking about the roots of stuff, is that it's not just that there are some things that I'm naturally good at. That's true. And it's not just that I happen to be intelligent, which is also true. It's that when I'm doing something, I enjoy going 110% at it.
Right.
That's just my program. I would even say I enjoy it. That's my natural setting. Is like, hey, do you want to do this thing? Absolutely. You're going to show up 110% to do this thing.
Yes.
Okay. Which ends up making me very frustrated when I'm not really good at it because I just gave 110%. Like, do you know what I mean? But when you're showing up at 110% all the time, and when you're doing that when you're a kid and you don't really understand the perception of how everyone else is feeling, when someone with that kind of energy comes into a room, you end up making enemies by accident. You feel ostracized. I can name 20 different examples of this happening to me. I won't, but I could.
Yes.
And it's true. I'm not making it up. People were really mad and angry, right?
Yeah.
But the same can be said for not enough. I bet people who have many examples of when they felt like they weren't enough and people ostracized them for that.
Absolutely.
So it's really just your lived experience. But your inner critic is like shaming you for it, and it's making you hide it. Like, I should, if I wasn't feeling, if I was working outside of my limiting belief, or if I could overcome it, I would be showing up at 110%.
Right.
And I would understand that that's going to rub some people the wrong way. So I would try to soften myself a little bit to some people just so that it didn't come off that way. But I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
I would still do it with a little bit of a softening around, like making sure I wasn't making other people feel bad. But that's not usually what I do, if I'm honest with you.
Right.
I'm usually thinking like, let me hit like third or fourth of like how I'm doing, and then like see if it's safe to inch my way up. That's probably it. And that's because my inner critic is telling me to feel shame.
Yeah.
How would you describe your experience with that?
So I think as you're talking, I'm thinking like that. I think that this actually plays a lot into my issues with being perceived. It's because I like to do things well. And I like the validation I get from doing a good job at things.
Yeah.
But I think that it's actually that fear of being too much that makes me not like the spotlight of it.
Yes.
Because like, I want you to know, I want my boss to know, I want whoever is in charge to know that I've done a great job, but I don't want you to like, say it in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Because then like someone's going to be mad, or they're going to think I'm like trying too hard, or whatever that means. Right.
Yeah.
But I do like the praise.
Yeah.
But like, I'd rather like you just put it in a note somewhere.
100%. And I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say right here that the thing that you're saying right now is a problem that society specifically puts on women.
Yes, absolutely.
Because men are allowed to like all be good and all celebrate. They're even allowed to like punch each other about stuff, and then move on and go have a beer.
Right.
When men have conversations with each other, it's all bragging.
Yeah, and they're not worried about like being congratulated or being praised,
and when you hear them, no one's going like they're bragging.
No.
They're just talking. But as soon as a woman comes in with that kind of energy, people get mad. So if you were that kind of child and you were raised as a girl, becoming a woman, you were like the messaging to you all the time
was like pipe down.
Stop. Like, oh my God. Like, to not be that way because other people are going to judge you for it.
Or like, be gracious, be grateful, be modest, be, be subtle. Like it's all that messaging.
Yes.
Leads to it being really difficult to being perceived and to being congratulated.
And to doing well at stuff. Like, I have a friend who, like me, went through school, pretty intelligent, I think on the autistic spectrum, and missed as well. And he's a boy. Okay. His experience of how he perceives himself as an intelligent person is like it's his identity.
Yes.
My experience.
Got it. I know who you're talking about. It took me a minute.
My experience is, how do I maintain my authenticity where I am a smart person, but I don't put it on to someone so that they feel bad that they might not be as smart as me.
Exactly.
That was never put on this person. This
Correct.
was never something given to them. And it's not just empathy.
No, but boys, and boys are also not told that they have to like be emotionally managing everybody's emotions. Like girls are taught to manage everyone's emotions, not just their own, but everyone's. If they're in charge of other people's emotions, people raised as boys, they do not have to consider that.
No. I mean, I remember going into a job interview and having a friend, neither of my parents would ever say this to me, being like, if it's a man interviewing you, don't let them know like how smart and organized you are. Yeah, it was a girl, we were teenagers, telling me this. And I thought, like, is that right?
I mean, she probably was right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. So it's just really important to understand that society has like handcuffed you.
Right, exactly.
And so like this is like being reinforced in all these little places that you don't even realize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember people saying like, boys aren't going to like you if they think you're smarter than them or funnier than them. I still hear women say that. Like, I don't want to be too funny.
Not me.
No, me neither. Funny, weird, that's my lane. Yeah. But like, it's still told to girls is
absolutely.
My point. So like, it's tough.
It is.
It makes me crazy to be
honest.
And
there's also a ton of factors going into it. So like if you're frustrated and confused and you can't figure it out and you don't know why you feel X, Y, and Z about something, it's because there's 1,000 variables at play.
Yes.
Always. I mean, unfortunately, always.
Always. And listen, the more intelligent you are and emotionally intelligent you are, and then you mix in empathy with that,
intuition,
and you mix in like intuition and like real strong desire, especially like connected to emotion, like you know what the emotion is connected to the desire. It doesn't make it easier for you, unfortunately. It makes it harder.
Correct.
I'm sorry, but the simpletons have an easier time.
Yes, right.
I don't want to sound mean, but like it really is when you are someone who thinks of all
You're
of
aware.
these factors.
Awareness is an issue. Right.
It's really, really tough.
Right.
Yeah. It's overwhelmed. Okay. Well, speaking of overwhelm, I think we should take a break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about excavating this stuff, but I'll also give you some things that you can do so you don't have to just sit here and feel like, yeah, this is all terrible.
Right.
We'll be right back after this short break.
You know what goes great with podcast listening?
A great cup of coffee from a great coffee shop.
Yep. Beans roasted in-house, amazing baristas. You know where I'm talking about.
Restoration Coffee. Can we go?
Yes, I need an Americano and maybe a panini too.
Ooh, I need blueberry maple latte and probably a resto bowl.
Ooh, yeah. Check them out and visit restoration-coffee.com.
Let's talk about what we're obsessed with this week. Okay, Heather. This is something we've been talking about. Well, you made a confession to me the other day about it. Yeah.
God.
But I wanted to talk about
I make a lot of confessions to her, so I'm nervous.
Well, I was like, am I supposed to punish you right now? Like, you feel like you're in trouble? But not even that. So Heather confessed the other day that she used for the first time ever ChatGPT.
I did.
And there's a lot we could talk about with ChatGPT.
There is a lot we could talk about.
Like the environmental implications, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
But I thought what would be interesting for this demographic of our listeners is talking about what we've been seeing on TikTok is like people using ChatGPT as like an oracle, as like a like how would you describe it? It's something's off though. Please stop. Whatever it is, stop doing it.
I have many words and thoughts.
Okay.
Because okay, I'm gonna start here. I used it to find recipes.
You used it in the way I feel like people should use it.
Okay. And the reason that I confessed it to, like, I literally texted her and I was like, I would just like to report this to you. Like, it literally was a confessional.
It's like to management.
Yeah. I'm like, you might need to give me a demerit. The reason that I did that is because there are very few people in the world who could hold me accountable to something or tell me the truth about something.
Right.
Because I'm a lot.
You're too much.
I'm too much. But I'm also a very skilled negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever someone's bringing to, most people I can just undo their argument in seconds and win, which is terrible and it's not good.
Right.
Okay. So if I feel like, hey, I've put my toes into doing something that I can see could be problematic, I'm going to tell Jamie because she's going to make sure I don't do it in a way that is problematic. Am I actually worried I'm going to use it for problematic reasons?
No.
I am not.
I'm not.
Okay. But I'm still telling her.
Right.
Okay. Which leads me to the point.
Right.
I think if you want to ask ChatGPT a question about like, can you pull a tarot card for me? Or can I run this by you and then you say something to me? Can you tell me a message from my dead grandma? I think on the surface, that's fine.
Okay.
Bear with me for a second.
Okay.
You can disagree if you want. On the surface, that's fine because what you're then doing is something that makes intuition easier, which is acting on a response.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
So if a card comes up and you're like, that's my card, that's perfect. That was your intuition saying yes to it. If it's like, that doesn't seem right. That's your intuition saying no to it. Great. You're still using critical thinking at the same time. Gives you a message from grandma. You're like, well, that didn't fucking work. And you move on, or, ooh, that was a message. I'm going to take that into consideration. It's just a further tool to use your own abilities. I'm in for that. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
However,
Mhm.
and I think this is where your problem is.
Right.
This is a slippery slope to put your
Mhm.
feet on.
Correct.
Because I see people starting to use it as an oracle, but then making it a person in their own minds.
Yes.
A line gets crossed, and then it's like their therapist. It's like their best friend. It becomes too much.
And you're not using your own intuition you stop like checking it. You stop
Yes.
like being like, oh, that's
the
right.
critical
That's wrong.
thinking
Right.
stops,
And you just start taking everything in.
which is what happens in cults. It's
Correct.
what happens. What cult leaders are
Right.
really good at it, having you let go
Right.
of that. And I think the same people who would fall down that slippery slope are the same people who would join a cult.
Yes, agreed.
So my problem with it is that it's the Wild West, and I can't personally come monitor for you when you stopped using your critical thinking voice,
Right.
and that scares me.
It's also an algorithm. Like
Yes.
it's a computer.
Like Googling.
It's going
Yeah.
right. So it's going to start like tracking what you're asking and what you're asking in return. And then it's going to give you more responses based on that. So then at some point the scales tip and it's not like honest, for lack of a better word, or accurate, or whatever the word is. Like it's just becomes a reflection of the algorithm.
Yeah.
Rather than like what the real answer is, unless it's something it can actually look up on like the internets.
It's sort of like able to do like the fraudulent psychic thing.
Exactly.
Where
exactly
you start to really look at how someone's responding to something and then speak to that. You know, that's why we're always talking about like looking for spiritual integrity. And what I know you wish in a reading you could just ask this question and someone could see your future and just tell that to you. But like that in itself is a red flag, because that doesn't make sense intuitively. It makes sense that that person is trying to scam you a little bit.
Yes.
It's that same problem. You're just doing it with a computer instead of a person.
Right.
And you're not realizing it. Do I think everyone's going to start using it for a lot of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I think there could be great? Like I've seen stories on TikTok of people being like, I have been struggling with these symptoms for years, and I put it into ChatGPT and kept adding, and they started to like adding stuff and reporting how I felt every day, and they came up with something and diagnosed me, and I took it to my doctor and they tested me and I had it.
Yes. But you kept in the step that they went to their doctor. They didn't just start treating themselves at home.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Great.
Yes.
We're still in the good place. But the bad place is so close to the line that
100%.
If you've got stuff going on that you feel like you just want someone to give you the answer instead of help you figure out the answer,
then you're just looking for a cheat code.
Yeah,
right.
And you need therapy.
Yes.
Not just ChatGPT.
Right. And also Jane Fonda over here. Let's not forget the environmental implications. Every time you
did
chat.
You just call me Jane
Yes,
Fonda?
I did.
That was my favorite thing that ever happened.
I did.
Oh my God, I wish I'd be so lucky. Okay, yeah.
Every time you type in and you ask it a question, it's not just like, I know you want it to be coming from like the heavens or the universe, but it's going somewhere to some place that's creating on a server that then has to be cooled down.
Yes.
And so the environmental implications are like staggering.
Yes.
Staggering.
Yes.
So if you're going to use ChatGPT,
be mindful.
Be mindful about it.
Yeah.
You know, I know to you it's just like a type on not you, everybody. It's like, it's just a type on your phone or on the computer. It's just like one sentence, you hit send. It's not actually that when it comes to like the resources that you're using.
Yes. You should be mindful of all resources that you're using all the time, your own and
correct. Yes, your own. Yes, as well.
So that is 100% a factor. And I think people are kind of trying to ignore that.
Yes.
And I always get like a lot. I get real, like, I'm going to wave the hypocrisy flag when they're like, I'm the spiritual of the earth, you know, boho princess, but I'm also depleting the earth's resources without mindfulness. Like, and again, I don't mean you're depleting it if you use it. I just mean
just be thoughtful.
Mindfulness.
Right.
Don't use it for like 6 hours.
Correct.
In a row. It's not a good idea.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Or to ask like what outfit you should wear that day, or
I mean, does it do that?
You can make your own. Yeah. I mean, I think people ask it questions like that.
I also get like a little worried when I see on TikTok, people will put in their picture and ask it to like, how could I look better? Like,
Mhm.
and it will tell you makeup and hair and like show you a picture of yourself
Mhm.
like that. That makes my belly hurt.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah, it feels a little risky.
Also, there are people who could help you with that, like humans whose their jobs.
That's
and,
their
like,
job. Yeah.
They would benefit from you paying them to
Yep.
do that.
Agreed.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a line.
Just think about
somewhere.
it. Think
Yeah.
about it.
Maybe report to someone if we're using it.
Let me know.
I reported to Jamie and I told her what I was using it for, and she was like,
Approved.
that's how it should be used. And I was like, great.
This is how it should be used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right, Jay, let's talk about doing some excavating.
Okay.
All right. So you want to understand where everything comes from.
Mhm.
You want to find like the root cause.
Mhm.
However, we don't find the root cause to like heal ourselves completely forever and it never comes back.
True.
That would be cool.
True.
We do it for the awareness
Mhm.
so we can like shift the power of these things
Yes.
from us. But I really think it's misleading to present stuff. We don't, but a lot of people do. That it's like once you find the root cause, it's gone. You've healed it forever.
No.
It doesn't work that way,
No.
and you're just going to be really frustrated if that's your expectation. Like you were saying, managing expectations, right?
Yes.
It doesn't work that way.
I mean, it's helpful to know, but you could also never figure out why you feel that way
It's true.
and still work on it and still do better.
It's true.
It just is helpful to know.
Yeah, and you know, some people over intellectualize these issues.
Hmm.
I'm one of them.
Same.
Okay. But when you only intellectualize them, it's dangerous. This isn't something you and I do, but we know people. As soon as I say it, 3 people are going to pop in your head who then just create a label and are then the victims of those things
Yes.
forever. And
Mhm.
it's actually worse,
Right.
I
Yes,
think,
agreed.
than not.
Well, because then it's an excuse.
Yes.
I'm X, so then they never have to do anything about it.
Or when I was a kid,
Well, I
this
do.
happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same, but
Yeah.
you can still move through things.
Yes. So again, it's not just about the excavation.
Right.
It's about then what do you do
with it.
with that, and
Yeah.
what is your expectation for it?
Agreed.
Okay. So where this all comes from, I can make it real easy because it's all the same. The story and the people and the pieces are slightly different.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you were a kid, you believed that some part of who you were just naturally was not acceptable to other people, meaning the
Mhm.
other people weren't going to love you unless you somehow changed that and acted like more or acted like less in any
Mhm.
given situation.
Mhm.
Okay. The excavating down, which I suggest you do for yourself personally, will
Mhm.
take everyone to the same exact spot.
Hmm.
And that is always that if you are too much or you are not enough, that what will happen is that you will lose everyone you love and it will be your fault.
Right.
Okay.
You'll be all alone.
Forever and ever.
Yep.
You'll probably die.
Die.
From being
I was
alone.
going to say you probably
Other
die.
people will die based on your
Hmm.
behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. And that you might hear that and think like that's extreme. It is.
Yeah.
But it's the point of view of a 6-year-old.
Exactly.
So it is
Right.
extreme and it is valid inside of you, even though logically you don't believe it.
Right.
Inside,
Yes,
your
that's
emotional
true.
mind does believe that that's true.
right.
So you really want to look at what that looks like.
Hmm.
You want to see what was that story? How did I write it? How would my 6-year-old say it? 6-year-old self say it?
Hmm.
How do I say it now in my own and know all of that? Because if you don't know it, that story will continue to have power over you,
Right.
and you'll be operating without a real awareness of why.
Hmm.
It also allows you to give yourself a lot of more grace, I think. When I fully understood what I was fearing,
Hmm.
I was like, oh gosh.
Exactly. Right.
It's not just about if people like me or not.
Right.
So it'd be like, why do I care so much if people like me?
Right. You don't.
I actually don't.
Right.
It's what will happen if they don't like me.
Exactly.
That I'm afraid of. And it's a 6-year-old thinking that everyone she loves will die and it'll be her fault.
Right. And it's also, if you know that, you can talk yourself back from it. Like you can say, like, you can literally say, like, no one's dying.
Yes.
I'm not going to be alone forever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you can talk yourself back from those
Yes,
things.
you-
It sounds irrational, but that's what your brain's doing.
You have to take the power away from it. So
Mhm.
like I would jokingly be like, you're not the Grim Reaper. You're not that powerful that
Right.
your actions can cause
Murder.
that.
Right.
I mean, a good cause someone to die if I wanted to, but it wouldn't be because I was being too much or not enough,
Right.
because I was being violent.
Right. Well, right. Yeah.
But like that belief is inside your body.
Yes.
And you created it actually not because you were afraid of those things.
Mm-hmm.
You created it because at one point, somewhere around the age of 6, your brain was able to comprehend the fact that for any reason, completely outside of your control,
Mm-hmm.
you could lose someone that meant so much to you.
Yep.
Okay. And you couldn't fathom it, and you
Mhm.
couldn't sit with it, and you couldn't deal with it because you were 6. I
Yep.
mean, grown adults can't fucking deal with that.
No, and like your literal brain isn't developed enough at that time to manage those thoughts and
No.
ideas, right?
No, it's still the worst part of being a person.
Yes,
Okay.
agreed.
So that's a truth. So what you decide to do is go, I can't live with the idea that that's just going to happen.
An option, right?
I have no control.
Right.
So you say, I'll control it with my behavior
Mhm.
by being more, by being less, by editing myself.
Mhm.
That's what you believe to be true.
Right.
It's that fear, and then it's your reaction to that fear. You made a story.
Right.
You will never live without the story,
Mm-hmm.
but you will live with the story in a way that the story is just part of it. Like,
Right.
oh, why am I feeling so anxious right now?
Like, oh, right, that.
It's this.
Mhm.
How do I navigate? I know this. This is an old script. This is how I navigate. This is how I deal with it. Sometimes you'll knock it out of the park. Sometimes it'll be a big L. It's all
Yeah,
part of it.
it might be. Yeah.
You know, like,
Mhm.
and the more things you do when you're afraid, and you're like, okay, I'm going to learn how to balance my intuition ego and do it anyways, the better you'll get
Right.
at understanding like the nuances of it. Like,
Correct.
oh, I didn't see this aspect. I'm so surprised that, doing this thing made me so scared.
Mm-hmm.
What's that about? And then you do it and you realize, oh, there's this aspect
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't really realize in my story that's influencing me here.
Right.
And then boom, you learn something
Mm-hmm.
through terror and anxiety,
Exactly.
as one does.
Exactly.
Once you find these things, it's really important to identify your specific language.
Mhm.
So it's why I'm trying to be like a little bit general, and I hope I'm
Vague.
not sounding like cagey, but like
No.
you need to go like,
What's yours?
what's my story
Right.
specifically and my language specifically around this.
Mhm.
You need to know that, because in order to rewrite it, you have to know exactly what you're rewriting.
Correct.
If you just do a general rewrite, like a general affirmation or something, it's not going to hit.
No, it's not going to dig deep enough.
Yes, exactly. Okay. The good news is that you have like around being too much or not enough, you have like one core belief,
Mm-hmm.
one core story that you're fighting. It has many offshoots,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one thing. So when you start to feel overwhelmed of like all these places
Mhm.
I have to address where I feel like I'm not enough or too much, you're actually just addressing one belief inside of yourself. And it's just sort of morphed a little into these different, like maybe it morphed a little at work. Maybe it's
Right.
morphed a little in your
It-
relationships. Like
yeah.
it's just different.
It manifests differently in different parts of your life.
Exactly.
And you can start to see that. You'll start to recognize the story.
Yes, very well said. Okay. Now, the goal here is not perfection.
No.
The goal is awareness.
Correct.
The goal is to be aware,
Right.
not to be perfect. So I say this because
Spoiler alert.
you're going to go there.
Right.
You're going to use your own thing against yourself.
Mhm.
You're going to be like, oh, especially too much people.
Mhm.
If you're like strongly in that lane, you show up at 110% at everything. Oh, let me go 110% at this and fix it forever and ever and be the best at it forever. That's exactly what my brain would say.
Yeah, mine too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to manage that because you're still using too much or not enough.
Exactly.
You're using the same thing. You're just shifting
Extremes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you just want to be aware and
Yep.
make adjustments. It's awareness, not perfection. You will never fully be rid of it. It's just part of being a person.
Right.
It's a spiral staircase. So
Yeah,
just
I know.
face it from different angles.
Yep.
I wish I could tell you, here's how to eradicate it. It's not,
No.
I guess, death.
Yeah.
Although, some spirits are still struggling with some shit over
That's
there.
true.
So who fucking knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
Okay. Help your ego ask better questions. This will shift you out of the critic and
Mhm.
more into what your ego's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So here's an example. If you think like, am I the right fit for this thing? shift the question to instead be, is this thing the right fit for me? This might sound so small. It's so different. Like you can feel different in your body. One is asking you to completely transform. And the other is just asking if this fits you, who you are.
Yes, because the first question reinforces the idea that potentially you're too much or too little.
Yes.
Like if you're saying, am I the right fit for this?
Yeah.
Then theoretically your ego is going to go, oh no,
you're
way too much for that.
Yeah.
Or like you're not good enough for that.
And it sort of asks you to come up with ideas of how you could be more or less.
Exactly.
Like how you could edit yourself.
Right. So if you ask, is this a good fit for me?
Yeah.
That's very different. That signals more of like an alignment.
Yes.
Like a cohesiveness.
Yes.
Like,
and that has better answers.
It does.
That has answers like, not right now.
Right.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, let's go try. Or,
right.
Like it has where like, am I the right fit for this? Is sort of like, no, because you're this, or like that just kind of is like asking for shame, I think.
Right. And it's like, you're like you said, you're asking the wrong questions. Like, am I a good fit for that? Whatever those answers are, but it doesn't actually answer like, is it something that I want?
Yes.
Is it a good time for that?
Yes.
Is it like whatever? But when you say like, is this a good fit for me?
Yes.
Then you'd be
internal.
like, yeah, you're like, oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like you're sort of inherently tapping into your intuition, whereas with the other question framed that way, you're tapping in with ego.
You see right through all my tricks. It's like desire is what you're asking.
Yes.
You're bringing that up, right?
Yes.
Like, am I desiring this or am I not desiring this? And as soon as you trigger that, your fear will still be there, but it will shift into a different mode than just like asking questions that go directly to the ego.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Okay. The other question I have, this was one everyone asked, like, do these people like me, or do I think these people will like me? That's a question everybody thinks all the time. People I know like me. I still am like, do they like me?
Same.
Like, everybody does that. Yeah. Okay. You catch yourself in those questions. You just shift it a little bit and you just ask yourself, again, here's my thing that Jamie sees right through all the time. How do I feel when I'm with these people? Is that how I want to feel?
Correct.
Is this something that I can adjust?
Correct.
Is this something that I just need to be around different people? Is it good? Is it bad? It's just information that comes in when you ask a question like this. Do these people like me? Guess what, babe? Unless you ask them and they tell you exactly honestly they're hooked up to a lie detector, you're not going to know.
I was going to say.
I think I could be a lie detector, side note.
Yeah, you'd be pretty close to it.
I think I could beat one.
Oh, to beat one?
Yeah, like if you
put you could probably beat one. Yeah, I think you probably could.
I bet you could.
No.
What? Oh, because you have to be too honest all the time.
Yeah.
You're more
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I could. Depends what we were talking about.
I think if I beat it first and then I was like, I bet you can't do it, you would be like, watch me. I would just have to like shit talk you the right way.
Probably.
Okay. Side notes. Okay. Anyways. Okay. What parts are on you? This is the question that like people don't like to
always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just use the example that like you're in a group and you're wondering if everyone likes you. Like, am I fitting in? Do these people? You're doing these kind of questions. Okay. You also, if the answer is like, it doesn't feel easy. Something doesn't feel right. I'm not feeling the connection I want to feel. Okay. If you've asked yourself good questions, you're going to be able to come up with, I don't feel the connection I want to feel. I think that thought all the time because the connection I want to feel is I want to know the depths of your soul and not right. I'm not going to do that with most people, but do you know what I'm trying to say? The right question will bring that up. Ask yourself what's going on. But as soon as you're always just blaming everyone else, there should be like a red flag going off around you that you're not reflecting on what parts could be you.
Yes.
Not trying to blame you. I'm not asking you to shame yourself.
Right.
I'm saying, look at it.
Be aware.
Something that happens to me, as we know, a group is hard because I have a much easier time connecting with people on like one-on-one or a small group setting. That is easier for me. That's my lane. Okay. In a group, it's a lot. So sometimes because of that overwhelm, people read me as not super friendly and warm because I'm just studying everybody. I'm just
Right.
like, and I forget to like share a part of myself.
Right.
Or even if I remember, I think like,
Yeah.
let's just
Right.
observe. Like,
Right.
let's hold that off
Yeah.
a little bit, okay? So the perception can be like, she doesn't seem like she really wants to be connected to us. She's not sharing any parts of herself,
Mhm.
right? So I have to make sure that like, hey, am I feeling that way? Let me make sure I'm reaching out and connecting. Let me make sure
Yeah.
I'm sharing too. What part of this is on me
Mhm.
because of my fear that I've brought to this
Mhm.
without blaming yourself.
Correct.
But if you don't, and you're constantly just saying like, oh, everybody hates me,
Right.
I'm always left out, nobody likes me, like these kinds of statements,
Yep.
there's some part probably that you're responsible for.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Separate the shame from it. But it's just accountability. It's just something
Yeah.
you need to look at.
Right.
If you know someone who's like blaming everyone else and they're not making all these efforts, there's something else going on.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing that, and let me just say, like, the way you come off to people, even if
Mhm.
you're good at it, even if you study human behavior your whole life, you can't determine.
Mm.
Like, sometimes I think I am being like so
You can't control
warm
that. Yeah.
and helpful and just like really being, and someone will be like, she's so intense. And I'll be like, damn it,
Exactly.
I'm trying so hard. But like, that's on them.
I was
Maybe
gonna say-
I was intense, but like,
Yeah.
I was nice. I was kind. I'm not always
That's
nice.
that's
You know what I
again
mean.
the variables that I talk about. Like there's
Yes.
there's too many variables.
You can't nail it.
You can only manage yourself and how you feel in a situation and what you're giving in a situation. You cannot manage
Yeah.
other people's shit, their own trauma, their own experiences, their own filters they see things through, and that might be skewing how they're perceiving you. Like you can't manage all of that, and you'll die
You literally can't.
trying.
You literally
to.
will die trying to.
Like you can only be in charge of yourself, and everything else is on them.
Yeah.
And then if you don't connect, you don't connect. Like
what
Yeah.
I always try to remind myself of is that like even when someone I'm not feeling like really connected to, or they're doing something that's rubbing me the wrong way,
Mhm.
which let's be honest is not super hard to do
Right.
sometimes. I am paying attention to their intention. I'm
Yes.
very aware if someone is like coming off like, I'll give you an example. I met someone, instantly was like, why are they being so fakey? And they were like so goofy and silly. And it was like really instantly irritating me. And
Mhm.
I am not someone irritated by goofy silliness.
No.
Totally fine. Be loud, be so I knew it was something else. And I knew it was like, it was intention based. Okay. And when I looked, because I felt, I know myself well enough to know if I feel like repelled,
Yes.
that there's something that I need to look at.
Yes.
Okay. Because otherwise
Right.
I'd just be like, oh, they're that way. I'm just going to stand over here.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Why am I having such a strong
Yeah.
reaction to
Yes.
this person? Okay. So I dug in and I was like, their intention is to distract.
Oh.
Okay. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They're not trying to make me feel bad or
Right.
piss me off or be annoying or not
Right.
be self-aware.
Yeah.
They're trying to distract. So I was like, something's going on, and they're covering it up. Very shortly after, I found out they were going through this like terribly messy divorce that they didn't want anyone to know about.
Oh, okay.
And I went, oh.
Got
But
it.
the thing that irritated me was that there was something not true about what was happening.
Well, it didn't feel genuine and
It wasn't authentic. And
Right.
this feeling of
Mhm.
like either someone's in trouble or someone's trying to trick me
Right.
took over my body. But I quickly was like, there's no malintent here. This person isn't trying to hurt anybody. And then I was able to like look further.
Yeah, you were sensing the disconnect between the truth and the show.
Yes, which
Yeah.
to me, that's how my intuition is like, let's find what's really going on. And I
Right.
could see
Right.
like a bait and switch moment in
Yeah.
front of my face, and I was like, how dare you? That's
Right. But then you get someone like me who might just instantly read that there's a fabrication happening,
Yeah.
and then it's over.
Yeah.
Like, to my own discredit. Like, I'm not saying that's a good quality to have, but like sometimes if I sense like that there's a lie happening on the surface, I don't want to know deeper. So they were lucky it was you.
It was abandoned
too.
But what I will say for you is that you always let people redeem themselves.
I do.
You might close the door.
Yes.
And when Jamie closes the energetic door, people feel it. I watch people not know she's doing it, and they literally like squirm and like adjust their behavior immediately. It's powerful. If you're around a clear, cognizant person who does that, it's especially like a super intuitive one.
Sometimes I don't know I'm doing it.
Oh my God. I actually, I mean, this sounds shitty. I love watching it because people are
It's
like
fascinating.
and
sure.
they don't know what's happening to them. And I'm
Yes.
just like,
And I'm like,
some
nope,
people,
it's over.
You have cut off, you just decided, whoosh, I mean, they deserved it. And like, you don't even see them physically. It's just like maybe online or something. And they immediately know.
Yeah.
They immediately feel cold. And
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
That's the power of people like that. So, but what I'm saying is like, if someone like shows their cards or explains or reaches out, tries to connect to you, you always let people redeem themselves. It's not like you're dead to me forever because you acted a fool.
You're just not safe until you can show me the truth.
There's just a distance.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to know these things about yourself.
You do.
Okay. So avoid measuring your self-worth at all costs. But you've been taught to, so you're going to keep doing it, and then you're going to have to try to.
Yeah.
So here's what I find when I'm starting to go into those like self-worth things. I go back to like a statement I have written for myself about what value is to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is my value to other people?
Okay.
Now, the truth is that everyone's value is the same.
Yeah,
and no one should have to
worth,
do anything.
right.
Like you can like me, not like me. I can
Right.
help you, not help you. None
We're
of
all
that
worthy.
should be.
We don't earn worthiness. We have a whole episode on that.
100%. That's the
Right.
truth. But that's a leap.
In this society, yeah.
That's a hard leap to take from,
absolutely.
oh my God, I have to make everyone feel good all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So instead, I sort of shift back to like, instead of like how am I valuable to other people? Like, what do I value in myself?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like changing the word value a little bit. Okay.
Right.
So you can do this. I don't even want to tell you mine because I don't want to influence anyone's, but like, it shouldn't be like anything that's like performative.
Correct.
And it should be how you feel.
Yes.
I'll give you a major spoiler. If you use the universal desires, we have many episodes on those. If you know your top two, use those in a sentence of how you value yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
For example, love and connection and contribution are my two. So what I value in myself is being able to do that. But what you have to be careful of is making sure you're allowing other people to do those same things to you. The value has to go both ways.
Reciprocity.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm like, let me make it so I'm contributing and you're not, so that there's something of me stacked higher.
Yeah,
because
that's
that
not
feels
fair.
safer to
Yeah.
me. That's not fair.
It's not fair.
No.
Right.
So again, things don't have to be equal. I say that all the time.
Correct. It has to be fair. Right.
It has to be fair. Right. Okay. It has to feel fair.
Yes.
So you really should be like, how am I feeling when I'm doing things? Is that how I want to feel? Cool. Then I'm nailing life.
Right.
When I'm around this person, do I feel good? Great. I should be around them more. When I'm around this person, do I not feel good? Should I not be around them? Is there something I need to work on? Is there something triggering me? Ask these questions. Find out the answer. Shift to that.
Questions.
Yeah. Self-worth measuring, never going to work.
No.
Okay. Your inner performer. We have to talk about them.
Yeah. What about them?
Okay. Jamie has a complicated relationship with her inner performer, as do I. But I feel like yours has been more triggered lately.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'll say is like your inner performer is the part of you that performs for people to perceive. Okay.
Yes.
You're being perceived and you need to perform being perceived. That's what life is. Like, hey, come do this job for work. And this is how we would like you to perform. And then, so you go, okay, how am I going to perform and do that? And then, hey, it's like, here's a person you could, be in a relationship with. Cool. How am I going to perform? It's all that. Okay. And there's a part of you that loves the performance. And there's a part of you that hates the performance. And both are really valid. Okay.
Yep.
But what you need to look for, I mean, it could be a whole episode on that, but you shouldn't ever be performing solely for other people.
Correct.
and then at the expense of yourself.
Correct.
When you're doing that, that's the red
Right.
flag.
Exactly.
Okay? You should be performing for yourself in a way that's also considering the other people around you.
Exactly.
If you can hit that,
that's the sweet spot.
You're nailing it.
Yep.
You're going to miss most of the time, but every once in a while, you get a bright spot and you nail that.
Yep.
How good does that feel?
Great.
It's like the best feeling.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good one.
The fear of being perceived. I don't know if you're aware of this fear, Jamie.
God, my therapist is. Jesus, it's all we talk about.
I mean,
it's literally all we talk about lately is me being perceived. It really seems to be like baked into the foundation of all my troubles.
I don't think you're alone in that, Jamie. I also think when you do a lot of work on yourself, you're constantly like bringing awareness to things and working on stuff and growing. You're going to naturally struggle with other people perceiving you, right? Because you've done all this inner work.
Yes.
And then all these people around you have not done it and are like reflecting back at you these past versions of yourself.
Yes.
It causes a huge perception problem.
That's a good point.
So I do believe that is a sign of someone who's doing a lot of growth work and is also like aware of themselves and like emotionally intelligent. That's a problem for emotionally intelligent people.
Sure is.
So it's like kudos.
Yeah.
But then like, sorry.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're getting there.
Yeah. I just want people to know that the fear of being perceived, there's like a below the surface element to this that I think some people don't. When people are like, I'm afraid of being perceived, you need to ask them or yourself the next question, which is perceived as what?
Anything existing.
And you need to make them go beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's situational
because
it's not always going to be the same answer, but it's always going to fall in the same category. They're going to have like, oh, it's different here. And you're going to hear the words, and to you, the outsider, it will be laughable that it's the same. To the person, it will feel so different. Okay. But it's the same category of things, and they fall into too much or not enough.
Right.
Okay. And you'll be like, oh, look at that. They're afraid of being perceived as, not always perfect. Interesting. Okay.
Right.
So like looking at that now, once you get the word, I'm just going to throw a word out there. It's not directed at anybody, especially not someone wearing a gold shirt in the room. Okay. If it is being perceived as not being considerate of the people around you all the time. Okay, so you're not being accommodating enough to those around you. So you're being perceived as inconsiderate.
Problem.
Okay.
Red flag. Red alert.
The next question would be, why is that unsafe? Okay. If you know the answer to that and you have excavated down to the bottom of it, things are going to start to get easier because now you realize that it actually isn't about the top part. It's about the bottom. It's just that's the trigger for the thing below.
Right.
All right. And that there's a belief there that who you are is actually inconsiderate. Okay.
Correct.
Which, if anyone knows you, would be hilarious because you're literally the most considerate person, even when it's not about being perceived.
Correct.
You think about people you don't even like and worry about them, even though you don't want to admit it. You do that.
I do.
So, okay.
I do.
Often people who struggle with this fear, they feel as though they're constantly being perceived in a way that is not the way that they want to be perceived. Okay. Which is a problem with control. Okay. So what's going on is we do that thing that we just did, right? Like maybe it's inconsiderate. You're not being accommodating to everyone. So these people are labeling you inconsiderate. When you look at what it means to be inconsiderate, it means you've put your whole family in danger and you'll probably be abandoned and everyone you know will have to leave you and you'll be alone forever. Okay. So then you go, well, what am I going to do about this? And you go, well, I'm going to control it by being the most accommodating person that has ever existed in the universe. But the problem is that you can't actually control how other people perceive you because even some people are like annoyed by the most accommodating person. I can't imagine that. Why? Well, I can because they're triggered by it. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, then you have this stuff. And then you also exist in this place where someone not being considerate is such a trigger because all of your energy is going to being so considerate and accommodating, right? So like this happens.
You also raise the bar so high when you start doing things like that, when you start trying to control and manage things like that, that like the slightest dip in that or the slightest mistake will unravel you.
Yes.
Because everything hinges upon that.
And so what do people in that situation choose when the control doesn't work and they're on that hairpin trigger?
What?
Avoidance.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's avoid
Yeah,
that
we won't
completely.
even get involved with it.
Right. Because the stakes are too high.
Exactly.
It's too dangerous and it's too unsafe.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question for you to ask yourself. What does my intuition desire here? What does my ego fear will be unsafe for me? The phrasing of that is important because you're asking what these elements want and not just what you want. What do I want?
Right.
What is my intuition desiring? An answer is going to come up. What's my ego fearing? And then you have a little space from them and then you can form a plan based on all that information, which is all valuable. Okay. Fear of failure is usually the fear of not being able to control how you are perceived. Just thought I'd throw this in.
That's a doozy.
It's true.
Yeah, it is true.
People will be like, oh, I don't want to do it because I'm so afraid of failing. I'm like, no. You're afraid of not being able to control how people perceive you.
Exactly.
And failing makes you feel like that. Because like I actually
changes it.
am not afraid of failing because people would not think that I was the best. And that's actually safer for me. So that doesn't strike up as much. I'm very afraid, however, of succeeding too much.
Right.
So like that's where you're going to find.
It's important. Yep.
Okay, last thing I'm going to say. Maybe.
Okay.
I cannot think of a place where inner child work or internal family systems work is more helpful than when dealing with this specific limiting belief.
Agreed.
Because there's so many contradictions here. There's so many elements. Like your inner child thinks this and then it also thinks this and it feels like so much. So if you can really separate that out,
important.
It's really, really helpful.
Yeah,
it gives
super
you a lot
helpful.
more clarity, I think. Yeah.
I agree.
So what do you think? Are we too much? Are we not enough? Are we hitting it in the middle somewhere? What are you thinking?
I mean, I know how I feel. I just don't know how other people are perceiving me.
I would like everyone to know that the whole time I was doing this, I was thinking like, is this too much information?
Oh, perfect.
We're at an hour 20. Like,
that's too much.
Is this
too long?
Much? Is this too long? Is this too much information? Should I have made this 2 episodes? Should I have separated these into 2? Because I'm afraid that I'm being too much, even in a place like this. Like, and again, it wasn't overtaking me. I wasn't feeling emotional about it, but I heard the voice constantly going. It shows up everywhere, guys.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. So do some work here. Let us know how it goes.
Good luck.
Yeah. As 2 people who are too much, I would just like to say, if you also fall in that camp, it's kind of about just being like, I'm okay with how much I am. And the only reason I'm adding 2 has to do with like someone else's shit, not mine.
That's a good point.
So it really isn't about me if I'm saying 2.
Yeah,
so,
like by whose standard?
Yeah. So I mean, I told you the other day that after therapy that I was like, I'm just going to be much.
Yes.
I'm just much.
Yeah, not 2.
I'm just much.
Perfect.
Yeah. So go be much. If you feel like you're not enough, I just have to disagree.
I know. You're perfect the way you are.
I've never met someone who I was like, wow, this tank is empty. I've met people who I was like, I wish they weren't holding back so much of who they were.
Yeah.
But not like,
True.
ooh, you're not enough.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Never had that thought.
No.
Yeah. All right. I think people who are too much should go get coffee. What do you think about that?
Yeah, agreed.
All right, let's do that.
Hey everyone, Heather and I have an ask for you. If you love this episode or if you love the IGG, can you do us a favor? We need you to go onto whatever platform you listen on and download, subscribe, like, love, whatever it's asking you to do. Can you go do those things for us on the platforms that you listen on? It would mean so much to us.
Thanks for listening to our episode. For a way to get in touch with us, please visit our website, intuitivegirlsguide.com. We love hearing your feedback on our episodes.